if you want someone to verify the actual legal entity that controls your website, like a whole bunch of these people have, then we do it 40 to 500 times faster than anyone else. We do very, very fast verification of legal entities. We have a blog. We post on Hacker News a lot. It's basically how we get customers. And this is really a kind of technical story about some stuff we did that helped out with that. Basically, we write a lot about DevOps and InfoSec and just general web dev type stuff. The blog is a way we get customers. Google has this thing called AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages. It's only, the interface is only for mobile devices, but it affects other aspects of Google search. I'll talk about that in a sec. AMP right now looks like this. You search for a thing, you see a carousel of stories from different websites, and then you have a bunch of content. Now, if you scroll up, all this content is actually on google.com. It's being delivered by HTTP2. I don't think I said HTTP2 correctly then, so I'll say it again. It's quite hard to do at speed. But yeah, it's Google's own CDN. It's a cut down version of all these pages. I'll explain technically what's actually involved. Requirements for AMP, and there's a few more than this, but this is the guts. One, a single HTTP request to load the entire page. So that includes all the CSS. There's two ways of having your CSS in a single request with your HTML. You can either inline the CSS, or there's, in HTTP2, you have a header, which actually specifies the CSS for the page. Google don't support the HTTP2 header yet. You must inline the CSS as an inline style sheet. It consolidates DOM changes. So if you're a front-end person, you've heard about this thing called fast DOM, which is rather than make the change, do the calculations, make the next change, recalculate, make the next change. Fast DOM consolidates all your DOM manipulations on the front end into a single operation and then does all the recalculation at the end. It's a really, really quick way of having stuff move around the page. It has the concept of viewport-based pre-rendering, which means like stuff you're actually looking at that very, that's in the window when you load the page is actually prioritized. There are extensions that load things like analytics and ad support, etc. If you run a startup, you're probably using Mixpanel. Mixpanel doesn't work, sorry. Everyone else does. I no longer use Mixpanel because I wanted AMP, and what the value Mixpanel was providing wasn't worth it. A lot of people who talk about AMP, a lot of talks you read online say third-party JavaScript isn't allowed. It actually is allowed. It's only allowed inside iframes. The idea is that you can't have some random script doing a document.write, injecting a script tag into the page that blocks rendering of the rest of the page. And as we said before, all this stuff is then cached on Google CDN. So Google actually ends up with the hits, but also has an amazing content delivery network, which I'm old, so this used to be called geocaching when Akamai did it. If you're in London, the content comes from a London server. Since then, a whole bunch of nerds who like hiking use the term geocaching to mean going out into the woods and finding presents. So if you're a millennial, not geocaching, but basically finding local servers. So does AMP actually work? This is basically a content ripped off from Malte Ubel's talk at Google I/O. Mean load time for a AMP page is 700 milliseconds, which is awesome. The worst case scenario, i.e. pretty much nearly every site loads within 8 seconds. So that's covering 99% of websites versus non-AMP pages, 22 seconds. An 8-second web page is slow and awful, but 99% of pages fall under this. This is the worst case scenario. AMP was live on 460,000 domains. It's growing logarithmically, so you'll probably see that Google I/O was a few months ago now. So it's probably more than that now. What do you lose? The ability to do third-party JavaScript outside iframes. The reason iframes are a big deal here is that, and why they use iframes for third-party JavaScript is you have a smaller DOM to manipulate, and there's also security and sandboxing concerns. Also, iframes can go off and become another thread for the browser. You get support for some analytics, embedded tweets, and Facebook and various UI components and AMP extensions. So you load the one AMP JavaScript file, and there's extra AMP little bits you can have, which say, oh yeah, I support a particular analytics provider, maybe 5 or 6 different analytics providers, but the event will be recorded once by AMP and then be sent off to all the different analytics providers you're using, i.e. rather than 5 things recording events, there's one thing recording events. Things like forms just don't work right now on AMP. They're coming soon. If the project's actually moving really quickly, I'll upload this presentation to GitHub. 6 months in the future, someone will see the presentation and complain about this because all this will be out of date. It's moving very, very quickly, but yeah, it's a very, very cut down version of the page. Minimal styling, no third-party JavaScript. The analytics are done by the AMP's JavaScript, not by the normal kind of mixed panel type JavaScript. Yeah. So, AMP and SEO. AMP is not a ranking factor right now. That's confirmed by Google people. It's not used to calculate the page rank that Google uses to indicate your position on the search engine results page. However, page speed is a ranking factor, and AMP can get you in the way the Google guys say it is, if you manually tune a web page, you will be like right at the front of that race. However, everyone using AMP will be right behind you, and then most websites are way, way behind that. So it's not as good as manually tuning a site because you're obviously more aware of your own site's performance. However, AMP is really kind of an embodiment of a lot of best practices and can get you to fast really quickly. And fast is a ranking factor for Google. And of course, AMP content is at the top of the search engine results page. The only way you can be in that carousel is if you have an AMP page. So, so there's some stuff here. So fast content is better for users. Somebody manually tuning a website, that's awesome. You get fast content is great. Google care more about fast AMP content right now on a technical level. If I have a website that loads in 0.6 milliseconds manually tuned and one that loads in 0.7 seconds manually tuned and is AMP, the AMP one will appear in the search engine results page in the carousel, and the manually tuned one will not. Whether that's good or bad is a conversation for another time. This is simply how it is. If you depend on people viewing your content to pay your rent, as I do, then AMP is money. By having your content available in this format, you will get more viewers, and if your rent is dependent on that, then you will get more money. If you're using Ghost to do your blog, just keep Ghost up to date. I think Ghost even keeps itself up to date. So don't do anything if you're using Ghost. Ghost already is Hannah here. The CEO of Ghost is from London. So yeah, Ghost has AMP just built into it. But I don't know, for me, like writing a blog is a job interview type thing that anyone should be able to do. I just generally like my own blog because it's easy to make one, and it's probably more hassle to modify my own code than to modify someone else's. So yeah, CertSimple was using a custom-built Express blog. Express lives on Node, and Express is pretty awesome. Express allows us to have multiple different parent templates. So the thing that says, the doctype HTML and all the rest of it, we can actually substitute that out with HTML space emoji Thunderbolt, which is what the AMP uses to actually indicate that it's an AMP page. And we can also substitute out our really extensive collection of analytics and tracking things with something that doesn't have any of that, really easy, with just layout equals in Express. And also, Express has injectable middleware, and Hapi has plugins, which are the same thing. So rather than just doing res render, what if we could just do res render AMP? That didn't exist a couple of months back. But yeah, it would be really easy because, of course, Node has the best server-side DOM implementation to take that tree structure of elements that we're about to send to the client and modify it to turn it into AMP. So this is a 15-minute talk, and we're going to make it real short. We did that. There's a thing called amps in the trunk. If you're somebody who remembers House of Pain, awesome. Also, like Node AMP was already taken anyway. So it's a Node module. It's some Express middleware, and it does a bunch of stuff. And this is actually real code. This is actually the front page of certsimple.com/blog, and all it does is a res render AMP. Here's what it actually does. So it takes our existing CMS, uses a AMP doctype with embedded minimal styling. So it's that HTML space emoji Thunderbolt, none of the trackers, none of the anything else. We convert image tags into the Google-specific AMP image tags. AMP images are images which mandatorily have to have height and width, so the browser can work out the aspect ratio of the image. A lot of the time, if, for example, whenever you load like theverge.com on a mobile device, if you look at the non-AMP page, if you have like an iPhone or something, you will see the title of the article, and then that will suddenly move down because there's an ad that's been inserted, and then you'll see some other stuff. And AMP doesn't remove ads, it just basically makes sure that it makes sure that every image and every video on the page has a defined aspect ratio, so text never moves around the page. Part of that is mandatorily requiring height and width. You can obviously resize images as you want, but it needs to know what the resolution of those images are. Well, yeah, we'll set the media sizes automatically. SVGs actually have a size. I didn't even realize this, so I thought SVGs were like measured in, I don't know, some kind of arbitrary unit. Apparently SVGs have like a pixel size, which is weird because they're vector, but they do. So we actually have manual overrides for SVGs. So you would have seen in the code in the previous page there was an image overrides variable, and that's just specifying height and width for things that match particular names. Obviously, we'll cache the hell out of this. We're no longer going to look at every image and video for every request. We'll just sit there and happily cache it for the first time, and then no one obviously just sits in memory. It's nice and fast the next time. We'll clean out any inline styles as well. Weirdly enough, a lot of like the markdown converters that you find on NPM, for things like tables, they start injecting like style tags, which is weird. But yeah, we want to get rid of those. And yeah, we don't change anything on our backend. Res.render just becomes res.renderamp. We're still using our our preferred templating language for Express, which can be whatever we want. We're still using our same logging engine. We didn't have to modify anything. And we use this in production as of about 2 months ago. And it's awesome. Like people can go and search for content that we write, and we will be there in that carousel against a bunch of stagnant 20-year-old companies that haven't changed their tech in 20 years. Like Symantec and GoDaddy. Like doing interesting relevant stuff on telling people how to configure their TLS setups and talking about Cypher suites and cool new safe ECC curves. Thanks. Hope that's useful for you. I will tweet links to all this stuff now. It was super quick, but I hope you will find it useful, and I hope you will turn on AMP and get yourself on the front page of Google.